Subhanallah, assalamu alaikum. I used to go to other masajid before a long time ago, and I used to wish that we have brother like Zuhair and brother Anas with us. I used to see this masjid advance, they talk about good things and good, mashallah, and very knowledgeable scholars and brothers over there. We're very fortunate to have these two brothers here. And what we need to do, has everybody welcomed the two brothers? These are the gems that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent them. Many things happened this year, alhamdulillah, for us. First of all, we got this brand new building, mashallah. We wanted that, we desired for that masjid, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us. Many new brothers came here, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the two brothers. Those are really very good. They're going to be very good for the community. As I said to the board when we were hiring Brother Anas, that we want to have here. Everybody goes for brand name. We go for brand name big time. And here's the brand name. They'll give our children the real accent, Arabic accent. We'll read the Quran. They will learn the Quran the right way. So that's the big thing, mashallah. And we welcome you, brother, with us. And the third biggest thing happened, one of the big things, that Allah kept me alive. As a Moshe, and with your dua, subhanAllah. Thank you. So, good luck.
Those are very, very kind words, alhamdulillah, for the welcoming, mashallah, from the community. Alhamdulillah. Okay. Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. We begin always with the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we ask that He sends His peace and blessings upon our dear beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. What time would you guys like me to wrap up by? 7:45. All right, Bismillah. Okay, أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لكم. I'm sorry? You guys choose. Half hour, 45 minutes?
No,
3 hours? I was told we go till 11.
That's good.
After food. Thank you guys for laughing at my jokes. I appreciate it.
I thought you were serious.
Not the 3 hours I was in. Sorry, you'll see me drinking a lot of water because after that, a lot of talking today and my throat kind of dries up a little. So, the topic for tonight is the best of us, right? Or I should say the best of you, because that is how these hadith usually translate. Khayrukum, the best from amongst you, from our dear beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, before we actually get into, we'll go over 3 of these traditions tonight. But before we get into it, let's actually talk about why it's important to be the best. Why do you want to aim high in life? What is so important about life that you should aim high for? Can you guys hear?
Yes.
Okay. What is it that we should strive for? Why does it matter? Why can't we just be average? What's amazing is they say, being average or not average, I'm going to say, you should. Oh, I forgot the quote. I'll remember it, inshallah, in the talk. But the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us, right? إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَتَبَ الْإِحْسَانَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed ihsan for all things. And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us, so if you should slaughter, then slaughter correctly and well. Right? And then he tells us some of the rules and legal obligations that we should follow when we slaughter an animal, for udhiyah, for instance. Right? Sharpen the knife, do it correctly. If something is worth doing, they say, then it's worth doing well. Otherwise, it's not really worth doing. You do it haphazardly, then no problem. But our life is not something that should be haphazard. Right? It is something we should do well. And so the Prophet ﷺ gives us guidance on how to actually be from the best of amongst us. Because we shouldn't settle for mediocrity. We shouldn't. When the Prophet ﷺ tells us to make dua, for instance, he says, make dua for the best. You're asking Allah for Jannah, ask Him for the best of Jannah. What's the best level? Firdaus. Right? No one goes to college and says, I want to make minimum wage. Right? Hopefully no one said that. Right? No. We all want to become millionaires. Who doesn't want to be a millionaire? Raise your hand if you don't want to be a millionaire. No, come on. He's like, forget millionaire. I want to be a billionaire. Of course. Allahumma zidhu barik. So it's important to strive for greatness. You know, the Prophet ﷺ once was sitting down with his companions, and a Bedouin came. And just a little bit note about the Bedouins, whenever you hear like a hadith about the Bedouins, just get ready because something exciting is about to happen. Because the Bedouins were people that didn't live in the city. And so when they came and the way they interacted with people, it seems very harsh, right? For us nowadays, no offense to hillbillies, but imagine we're sitting in a well-cultured area, it's a suit and tie formal event, and someone comes in with a straw hat and is just completely like, if you will, from outside of any city or any type of, formality. Imagine that kind of person came in and just started talking with everyone, right? You might laugh, you might be like, oh, that's interesting. Why is this person so awkward? Why is he so rough? Why isn't he, formal and, following these types of social etiquettes and stuff? So this Bedouin comes in and is talking to the Prophet ﷺ. And whenever they talk to the Prophet ﷺ, they don't necessarily address him in the most polite way because that's just not how they were. It's normal to walk up to the Prophet ﷺ and say, oh, Muhammad, right? Could you imagine like someone that's our Prophet, Muhammad ﷺ, right? So this Bedouin comes in and he's speaking with the Prophet ﷺ. He's like, oh, Muhammad, what do I have to do when it comes to Salah? So the Prophet ﷺ tells him you have to pray 5 times a day. And if you pray Sunnah extra, it's good for you. Okay. What I have to do with Zakat? He says, well, you have to give this much. And if you do extra, it's good for you. Okay. What about Ramadan? Fasting. What have to fast? How much? Well, you should fast Ramadan. And if you do extra, it's good for you. Hajj. Right? This, that, this pillar, that pillar. So do this as an obligation, and if you do a little more, it's good for you. Okay, I'll just do the bare minimum, and he walks away. So the Prophet ﷺ says, if this man is telling the truth, then he will succeed. Because if you do the bare minimum in Islam, you will succeed. There's no doubt about it. Now let's look at somebody named Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Abu Bakr is sitting with the Prophet ﷺ, completely different types of mentalities. He's sitting with the Prophet and he hears the Prophet ﷺ talking about the beautiful gates of Jannah. Allah, this gate is for these types of people. And when they walk by, the angels say, oh, enter from my gate. Oh, this person, you can enter from my gate. Oh, this person, you can enter from my gate. Because you prayed more, you fasted more, you gave extra charity from my gate, from my gate. Abu Bakr is hearing this and he says, okay, if every person is going to be called by one angel to enter through the gates, is there anybody who will be able to enter from all of the gates? Right? So he's asking, will there be any type of person that didn't just fast, but fasted more, so that he can go through the gate of fasting? We didn't just give zakah, but he gave sadaqah more, so you can go from the gate of sadaqah. We didn't just pray 5 times a day, but he can go from the gate of salah. All these different types of gates. So the Prophet ﷺ says, yes, there is a type of person. And in one narration, he says, it's you, Abu Bakr. And in another narration, he says, and I hope it's you. Right? So 2 completely different mindsets. One type of person wanted to be like millionaire, billionaire Muslim. One type of person, minimum wage. Minimum wage is not a bad thing. You can get by doing it. You can succeed doing it. Maybe. Especially if, Bernie Sanders wins and $15 minimum wages and all that stuff, right? As long as Republicans don't, we're friends to Republicans, right? I would vote maybe. I don't know, but right? But minimum wage in Islam, in terms of doing the minimum, you will succeed, right? But why be the best? What is it about excellence that should drive you? SubhanAllah, in my short time on this world, in this life, I've realized that there is nothing that you can control except for yourself. And that's it. You can literally control nothing else fully. There's nothing that you can control except for yourself. So you know what? If the only thing in this life you have real control over is yourself, then why not be excellent? It's the only thing you can do. There's no reason to waste it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put us on this earth, and the best from amongst us can even supersede some of the ranks of the angels, according to some scholars. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah 15, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ, that we have created mankind in the best of fashion, in the best creation. You know, interesting story about Surah 15. One day Imam Malik is sitting, and a man walks up to Imam Malik, and he says, "Oh Imam Malik, I'm afraid I might have divorced my wife." It's like, divorce isn't something you're afraid you have, you don't have. It's not like gas in your car. Maybe I have some, maybe I don't, right? Like you're either married or you're not. There's no like halfway. So he's like, what is this person saying? So he's like, okay, well, tell me. Like, what do you mean you're afraid you divorced your wife? How do you accidentally do something like that, right? Says, well, I made a promise. I said, by Allah, if you are not prettier or, you know, better than the moon, then you are divorced. For us, that seems kind of weird, right? The moon. What's so pretty about the moon, right? But imagine, right, especially at that time period, especially for Arab, right, Arabs, the moon is like the prettiest thing you can be called, right? Ya Amar. Right, so you think someone's, you know, pretty or handsome or something, or you would give them a good name, you go, Ya Amar, Ya Amar, Ya Amura, right? You moon. You're literally calling someone the moon as a compliment. But it's the highest compliment of beauty you can give. But it can also be like the worst insult of beauty you can give if you tell someone, oh, you moon on the 30th night. Because what happens on the 30th night? There is no moon. The Amr Talatin, for instance, for those that are from Egypt. The Amr Talatin. It's like an insult because you're calling someone the moon on the 30th night where there is no moon. So why is it that the moon is so pretty? Because imagine at that time they don't have electricity, they don't have headlights. Literally, the moon is the sun at night for them. Literally, right? So it's a huge compliment. Light when you need it the most. So this man walks up to Imam Malik and he says, I called my wife and I said my wife this. And so I'm not sure if she's divorced or not right now, right? Because is my wife better or prettier than the moon? So Imam Malik's thinking about it. And he's like, yeah, I think you guys are kind of divorced. Right? So Imam Shafi'i is there now. Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah, is one that got to study with Imam Malik. He was sent to Imam Malik to study when he was at a young age, and then later on he studied under the students of Imam Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah. So my father Shafi'i is like, okay, hold on a second. So he goes back, he thinks about it, he comes back. He says, no, actually, you're not. You know why? Because Allah said in Surah Al-Teen, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. We've created man in the best of fashion, the best of ranks. But the rest of the surah we can do tafsir on another day, inshallah. So, Allah has created man in the best of fashion, the best of form. So why is it that we should try and achieve the best status? Right? And this is why, actually. So the first hadith that we'll go over is from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Is a beautiful hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abu Hurairah, radiallahu anhu, one of the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and in fact probably the most narrated by companion, the person that transmitted the most hadith. If not the most, one of the most, right? And yet what's amazing about him is he only lived with the Prophet ﷺ for a short period of time towards the end. But he narrates that I heard Abu al-Qasim saying, the Prophet ﷺ saying, خَيْرُكُمْ إِسْلَامًا أَحْسَنِكُمْ أَخْلَاقًا إِذَا فَقِهُ. The best of you in Islam is the best of you in character when they possess understanding of the deen. The best of you in Islam are the best of you in character when they possess understanding of the deen. So the best of you are thus the best with knowledge and character. Now we all have heard the talks and the lectures about You can only really have real, true knowledge shows itself when it has an impact in your life. Right? When you put knowledge into action. When you put the ilm with the amal. Right? We've all heard these thoughts. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu tells us, he says, what do you think nobility is in the sight of Allah? He says, Allah has made nobility clear. The noblest of you in the sight of Allah is the one with the greatest taqwa. Inna akramakum inda Allahi atqakum. The most noble from amongst you are those who have the most taqwa. And who is the best in lineage from amongst you? What do you think Ibn Abbas says? Who is the best lineage? Anyone want to take a shot? Yes.
Yusuf alayhi salam.
Yusuf has the best lineage. Okay. Anybody else? Anyone here named Yusuf? MashaAllah. You win. Alhamdulillah. Anybody else? He says, أفضلكم حسبا, right? The best of you in lineage, أحسنكم خلقا. The best of your character. The best lineage you can have is beautiful character. And there is a scholarly response as to why he was saying that Yusuf has the most noblest lineage if you actually look at it, in terms of prophethoods and things like that. But in terms of us, the best lineage we can have is good character. As in, you know what? Who cares about who your parents are? No one cares about who your uncle or your godfather or your grandfather or whatever. No one cares. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is who you are. That's your best lineage. Because if you are the son of a great king, and you have terrible character, you have benefit to nobody. Doesn't matter. Right. And this is Ibn Abbas, one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. Now, what is the importance of beautiful character? You ask yourself, is beautiful character equivalent to standing in night in prayer, qiyam al-layl, every night? What do you think? What is greater on the scale? You can answer, if anyone. What do you think is greater? Standing up at night, praying, qiyam al-layl, or good character? The Prophet ﷺ answers it for us. It says, a man who is known for his good character has the same degree as someone who stands at night in prayer. Now, for those of us that don't stand at night in prayer, you can get there by being good in character. That's okay. Go to sleep, but have good character. For those of us that have reached good character, stand at night in prayer. Increase on. The Prophet ﷺ tells us, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ, that I have only been sent لِأُتَمِّمَ صَالِحَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. In another narration, مَكَانٍ. Right? I have only been sent to perfect noble character. Now, what does noble character mean? Let's talk about three things. They say that when you have noble character, there's three ways you can do it, right? The first is your character with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We understand what the rights and the obligations and the prohibitions and the rules and the type of relationship we should have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that for sure is important. Our good character with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is obeying His commandments, increasing our taqwa. Right? We also have character with yourself. The second thing. It's important to have good character within yourself. Remember how we talked about the only thing in this world that you have true control over is yourself? Then that means when you get mad, you lower your temper. When someone insults you, you don't insult them back, you don't retaliate. You live a life full of optimism. Right? You strive for the best. This is having good character with yourself. Right? You don't fall short in terms of your ethics and your work, your work ethics, and you're trying hard, and all these things is good character with yourself. Then you also have character with people. You'll fulfill the rights of people, even if they don't fulfill the rights of you. You know, Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah is quoted to have said that true taqwa is when a person compliments you and a person insults you is equivalent. They both mean the same. As in, just because someone compliments you doesn't mean you're going to, whatever. And if someone insults you, doesn't mean you're going to go down, right? For you, a person's compliment and a person's insult has the same type of effect on you. Now, obviously, it doesn't mean that you should be friends with people that just insult you all day and night. No. Right? But true taqwa means that it's not a big deal. You're not going to try and show off. You're not trying to get people to say good things about you. That's not what your focus is. Your focus is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, they say that good character is like incense. You know, those wood sticks that you burn. The more you burn, the sweeter you smell. That's what good character is like. You look at the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam ever get mad? Yeah, he did. But for a purpose, for a reason. For people that lose their control. Remember, literally the only thing you can control in this life is you. So if you're going to get mad, at least let it be for a good reason, a valid reason. Right? Someone's a minute or too late, someone's this or that. These things are not necessarily good reasons to be mad. Yeah, we should be professional. But for you to lose your cool, lose your temper, these are not things that we should lose ourselves over. Because remember, you can only control you. You know, I read this beautiful quote from one of my sheikhs that I have the pleasure of studying with. He says, you know what? I've learned to stop expecting from people, and I've learned to start accepting from people. I've learned to stop making you like expecting 100,000,000% from you, but I've learned to start accepting you for who you are. And once we start doing this, we will start to realize that, you know what? Maybe you start to have a little bit more patience with people. No. So it's important and it's critical to have good character with people. Because you know what character says? Character says more about you. The way you treat people says more about you than it does about them. Right? Someone comes up to you and starts insulting you. The way you treat them says more about you than it does about them. You backbite somebody, that doesn't say, for me, it means nothing about that person. It means everything about you. Because I know that if you're willing to backbite someone in front of me, you're willing to backbite me in front of someone else. Right? So this is what good character is. خيركم إسلاما أحسنكم أخلاقا إذا فقهوا. But the Prophet ﷺ didn't just stop at good character. He said, the best of you in Islam are the best of you in character when they have understanding of the deen. Because we never, ever, 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 ever want to belittle knowledge in Islam. Never. This is how critical knowledge is. Now remember, we talked about trying to be the best. That means increasing. This hadith now means not just your character, but your understanding of the deen, knowledge. Why? Because you can never really truly have good character with Allah if you don't have an understanding of who He is and what His commandments are for us. You can never truly have good character with Allah if you don't know what He wants from us. It's impossible. So the best from amongst us are those who seek an understanding as well as have good character. You know, the same Imam I talked about earlier, Imam Shatth, his mother told him, when you go study under Imam Malik, learn from his manners before you learn from his knowledge. Learn from his manners before you learn from his knowledge. Right? So we're not necessarily going to go too deep into how important understanding deen is in terms of knowledge. That'll be a topic for another night. But when you study, realize you have to pair it with action. Because if you don't, then that knowledge will become a witness against you instead of for you. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make our knowledge beneficial knowledge, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make our knowledge a witness for us and not against us on the Day of Judgment. The second hadith that I want to mention of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, خيركم خيركم لأهلي وأنا خيركم لأهلي. The best of you is the one who is best to his family, and I am the best of you to my family. In another narration, you'll see it translated as, the best of you are the best to their wives, and I am the best of you to my wives. Now, one of probably the most overlooked aspects when we talk about relationships with people and things like that is unfortunately the importance of kinship, of family. Okay? It is extremely important in Islam to have good family bonding. Extremely important. The Prophet ﷺ used to often, he never really knew his mother, right? Yet he would visit her grave. After the death of his wife, Khadija, he would constantly visit her friends just to remember her. That's how much love he had for her. You notice this is how much love he had for his family as well. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, in Surah Luqman, He says, وَإِنْ جَاهَدَاكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُشْرِكَ بِي, that if your parents were to do jihad against you, to commit shirk, مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا وَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا. And if your parents were to do jihad against you to commit shirk with me, فَصَاحِبْهُمَا, be their companion. You know, we say the Sahaba are the companions of the Prophet. Here Allah is telling us to be companions with our parents that are doing jihad against us to commit shirk. Imagine if our parents are Muslims. Then what is our relationship with them? You know, for many of us, maybe this verse doesn't necessarily resonate a lot in terms of the explicit thing here. But imagine the companions. How many of them, all of them, right? All of them, well, most of them were converts. Right? Literally fighting against them to become mushrikeen. Allah is telling them, no, be their Sahaba. In this life, of course, right? In this life, we're their Sahaba, but we don't necessarily do anything that is haram, of course not. But this is how important family is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran who our main responsibility is for. Right? We talked about earlier, the only thing you can really control in this life is you. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, O believers, right? He's talking to us, Qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. Protect yourselves and your family from the fire. Protect yourselves and your family from the fire. Because we are responsible for those around us. And those that are immediately closest to us are our family members. Save yourselves and your family from the fire. That's your goal. That's your obligation. If every single person strove to make sure that their family was saved from the fire, there would be no need for you to meddle into anyone else's family. Because everyone's taken care of. Right? The Prophet ﷺ tells us in a hadith Qudsi, he says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I am the merciful, Ana Rahman, and I have created ties of kinship And it derives a name for it from my name. Rahim. Silatul Rahim in Arabic is ties of kinship. If anyone maintains ties of kinship, I maintain a connection with him. Allah is talking to us now. If you continue to stay within your family and tie the ties of kinship with your family, Allah ties a connection with you. But whoever cuts off the ties of kinship, I cut off my connection with him. Can we afford not to tie the ties of kinship? Remember how I told you earlier, the first hadith, the way you treat people says more about you than it does about them. How many of us have cut off relationship with family that have harmed us? Right? How many of us have done so? Our cousin, this brother here, that person there, our third cousin here, our uncle there, our nephew here, our niece there. Realize that says more about you than it does about them. Because, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, once we do that, then He cuts off ties with us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ana Rahman, I am the most merciful. And I have created this thing called kinship from the name that I have derived, that I'm telling you is my name. So if you want a connection with Ar-Rahman, then you have to have a connection with your kin. And the reason why we forgive people is because it says more about us than it does about them. In another hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he says, Ar-Rahimuna yarhamuhum ar-Rahman. Ar-Rahimun, those who spread forgiveness, yarhamuhum, will have forgiveness spread upon them from Ar-Rahman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you want that mercy? Tie Surat al-Rahim. Tie the ties of kinship. Connect with your family and forgive people. That's how you get mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Islam isn't just about our vertical relationship, but also about the horizontal relationship. Okay? The third hadith that we'll talk about, inshallah, tonight, is the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Probably one of the first hadith I memorized in weekend school when I was like a young child. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه. The best amongst you is the one who learns the Quran and teaches it. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Baqarah, there are some people who have hearts that are hardened, harder than rock. Harder than rock, their hearts. And He tells us in Surah Al-Hashr, at the end of Surah Al-Hashr, some of the most beautiful verses, right, in the Quran. He says, لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل. If we had sent this Quran upon a mountain, لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله. You would see it literally crumble from its khashya of Allah. Khashya means awe, right? Fear. That if this Quran had been sat down upon this mountain, it would have crumbled. And yet there are some people whose hearts are harder than rock, like in Surah Al-Baqarah. That when these verses came down, they didn't submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون. And that we send these examples and we present them to the people, and perhaps that they will give it some thought. يتفكرون, that they will think about it. There was a man His name is the infamous Fudayl, right? For the young people in here, imagine he's like a super villain, not a superhero. He was known as the infamous Fudayl. Now this man was a highway robber, a bandit. Right? For us, we don't really necessarily relate to that kind of thing because we don't see it anymore. But imagine your bank that steals all your money. No. But imagine someone who steals your identity theft, right? And you have no protection against it. How much would you hate that person? All your money, your bank accounts, everything. Right? Imagine that person that you hate so much that did all these bad things to you. Now imagine his name is the infamous Fudayl. He was infamous at his time for always robbing and pillaging and looting and raiding people. Not just him, but his band of people, his group. Okay. So much so that people would be afraid to go certain parts of certain routes that they would take to travel from one place to the other. And only the people, now travel was important because this is, remember, a trade society. You need to be able to trade to get certain things. This person grows potatoes, that person grows spices, this person grows this person grows that. If you don't have these things, then khalas, you're eating potatoes for the rest of your life, right? And I know we all love potatoes, but that's not always a good thing, right? So this man would literally cut off trade routes because of his band of people. The infamous Fudayl. Don't go there. The infamous Fudayl will steal and rob you. Now, he used to pray. And subhanAllah, I'll say about prayer, and inshallah this as well another time. I have never seen anyone who prays 5 times a day and is going through difficulty and troubled times in his life, except that towards the end of their life, they always return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's how important. Even if you think you're the worst person in the world, stick to your salah because it will guard you from Jahannam. But anyway, so this man, infamous Fudayl, used to be like a highway robber. He's literally infamous, and people would never go certain times. They would stop traveling at daytime. They wouldn't travel to certain parts. Trade would be affected. So only the elite people who had the money to afford a lot of security could go through these routes. Obviously, he wouldn't attack people he wouldn't be able to defeat. And what's interesting, actually, subhanAllah, is that he had like this secret love of his life. And he would always send her like tokens of, like postcards. Oh, these people I robbed, and he has a token from them. So very interesting, actually. So one day, right, he's near her house, he's just listening to her or whatever, and he hears this verse from the Quran. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَلَمْ يَأْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Is it not yet time? أن تخشع قلوبهم لذكر الله وما نزل من الحق ولا يكونوا كالذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبل فطال عليهم الأمد فقست قلوبهم وكثير منهم فاسقون. Has the time not yet come for those that have believed, right? ألم يأن للذين آمنوا, for their hearts to have this khashya. Remember this verse earlier we talked about? The mountains would crumble with khashya. Is it not yet time for those that have believed that their hearts should have khashya now? الذين آمنوا لذكر الله, at the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is the greatest dhikr of Allah? The Quran. Is it not yet time for the Quran to instill this khashya in your hearts? After this, he hears this verse and it literally changes his life. He seeks tawbah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he enters into a town. And he walks by these 2 people, and not everyone knew back then they didn't have Twitter, you couldn't send Instagram pictures of people's faces. So he's walking by people, and he hears 2 men speaking. And they're talking about trade and this and that. They're like, no, you can't go that way. The infamous Fudayl will get you. So this man walks up to them, and he starts saying, I'm the infamous Fudayl, but I return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're safe. if a person who goes from this to that, just by accepting the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what about the rest of us? They say every sinner has a future and every saint has a past. Is it not yet time for the Quran to change our hearts? خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ. The best of you are those who learn the Quran. The Quran will never change your heart unless you seek it out and learn it. خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَهُ. But your ilm that you have, it's not just the best of you are those who learn the Quran and that's it. You have to pay zakat on your ilm, on knowledge. وَعَلَّمَهُ, and then taught it. It's good to learn the Quran. The best of you are those who learn the Quran and teach it. That's the best. I'll end with this. It's very interesting to see the way the Prophet ﷺ gives us, and there are literally about, if I remember correctly, maybe 80 or 90 different things where the Prophet ﷺ says, the best is this, the best is that. You can seek this out. I believe there's a blog post somewhere, you Google it. Literally like 100 different types of the best, the best, the best. What's amazing is about the Prophet ﷺ is the way he would respond to people seeking advice. So if he knew that someone was strong in one area, then he would give him advice in that type of area. If he knew someone was weak in a specific area, he would cater his advice to each individual person. Right? Now we may try and aim to be like Abu Bakr, where we want to enter through any gate of Jannah we want. But we have to be practical. And sometimes it's okay to take baby steps. In fact, that's the best way to become the best at something, is to take baby steps. Right? So seek these things out and find out how it is that you can be the best in a specific type of thing. And once you become the best, add on something else after that. Slow and steady wins the race, right? And so these are 3 ways. For me, these are extremely all-encompassing ways. Imagine if everyone in the community had amazing character and could learn the Quran and could teach it and had strong family ties. Right? Then recovering knowledge, recovering akhlaq, individual people, as well as family connections. What more do you want from a community? Is there anything left? Allah. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. I'll open the floor to questions, and then inshallah I know that the worst thing a speaker can do is fight food. And I'm not trying to fight your food. Sister Amy.
I was wondering, how can we know if our kinship ties are broken? Like, how often do we have to keep up, especially if they're not in our nuclear family, like you're mentioning second cousins and all?
Very good question. So I don't think it's like call your mom 4 times a week, call your dad 4 times a week, call your cousin twice a week. I don't think it's like that. It's obviously not like that. But if you know that there's a problem with someone, then try and rectify it. I think that's the most important thing. And then, call someone maybe once a month, every other month, something that's appropriate for that type of level of family. Right? So, for instance, your parents should be the most people that you contact. And then obviously the core nucleus, like you talked about. If you're talking to, your friends more than you're talking to your parents, that might not be a great sign. If you're calling them at least, right? Especially if your parents don't phone. But you shouldn't, your 4th and 15th cousin, you wouldn't expect to necessarily be at the same type of relationship with your parents. That's, I think, obvious. So to be honest with you, that's the best way I can answer that question. So.
I have another part to that too.
Please.
Which is I just wanted to address, and because I had asked somebody else about this too, but there are certain cases in where it's actually preferred to break kinship ties, correct?
There could be possible. It has to be case by case. If there's something like that, you should really seek the advice of someone that you trust and has a level of knowledge and character that is scholarly. So, yeah. Inshallah. That's it? Exactly. Is there a question?
The question earlier you discussed about when people insult you, but you try to make it with them being a good character and being a good person. But sometimes when you respond to an insult or somebody's bad comments, people think you are a hypocrite.
If you respond to it.
If you don't respond them with the same intensity, if they insult you and you just walk away from being insulted, then people think that either you have no honor or you're a hypocrite.
Very good question. Okay, so the question is, right, let's say someone comes up to you and starts insulting, and then people will think that you're just like a road, anybody can walk over you, right? So one day the Prophet ﷺ was there, and people came to start insulting him. And he's sitting there and he's not saying anything. So I actually respond to him on behalf, right? And it's like, oh, why did you do that? Right? Like the angels were responding this thing. So now, here's the question, right? When we talk about good character and responding to insults and things like that, you can forgive what people do to you, right? But we have a duty to stand up for others. So in a sense, if someone came up to you and started insulting this person and that person and this person and that person, you're justified in being angry and telling that person to stop and stand up for the other person. You have every right to be patient when someone's insulting you directly. Okay? But just because there's a difference between defending yourself and retaliating as well, right? If someone comes up to you and just insults you and just lays it in, whatever, someone comes up to you and starts critiquing you, and you know that what you did is not what he's saying, then you can try to amend it, fix it. Or if what you did is correct, it was indeed what he said it was, and you're in the wrong, then you should apologize, right? Now, what other people think, remember, at the beginning we said, you can't control anything. The only thing you can control is yourself. You can't control what other people think. They might think you're a hypocrite. If you respond, they might think you're a hypocrite. Who cares? Right?
Well, it does matter in community, when you are in community.
Oh, in community.
Remember, those days and today, big difference.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you're at large, so you have to tell people ask what happened.
Yeah, so you can defend your honor without retaliating. Yeah, that's the important thing.
So what you're saying, you can take the insult for the sake of Allah.
Yeah.
But the same person insults somebody else, there you can take the...
And also, as long as it doesn't diminish community, bond. So for instance, if I'm just like, let's say there's someone, an imam is accused somewhere of, someone walks up and says, you're stealing from the masjid, you just bought a Benz and you're stealing all this money, then he needs to say, no, we need to clarify things, right? But if someone comes up to you and is like, oh, I hate your tajweed or whatever, right? Okay, so you have to weigh obviously the balance.
Another one is when you mentioned earlier that when you try to make a kinship with your relatives, but sometimes you hear in the community that I am trying to make with my cousin or somebody, but they keep rejecting and keep insulting me. They don't want to make it with me. I think there's a hadith about Rasulullah. He said, if you are trying to make it with your kins and your family, but they are rejecting you, you are filling their graves with the hellfire. I think something like that. There's a hadith about it.
Oh, I haven't heard that hadith.
Yeah.
But again, if you try and go and fill the condition, it might not always be accepted if you go and you try ties of kin. Might not always work, right? This is just reality. But you have to do your part. And that's all that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us to do. You try, and then maybe 6 months later you try again. Maybe a year later you try again, whatever it is. But you try. Any sisters? If anyone else wants to write a question, you can as well. Yes, sir.
Can you explain the second ayah again? I got you explain well. لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن for the second one, وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس. What is the ayah actually telling us?
Which ayah? Sorry?
وتلك الأمثال نضربها.
Oh, so that's the part of the same ayah. وأنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل رأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله. So the second part of the ayah is وتلك الأمثال, and these are the way it's translated in the translation I put here, the examples. This is the example that we brought forth for you to start thinking about.
Okay.
Right? That if this mountain would crumble out of khashya from the Quran, then then you should also, these are the things that you should think and reflect on. Exactly. Any sisters? Any questions? Any other questions? There's one last question we have. Sheikh Anwar Khan. What's for dinner? Jazakallah khair. I hope I didn't take too much of your time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and your time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of the best of the best. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevate our community to the best community. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevate us to the best of people who have a relationship with the Quran. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provide for us and give us and provide for us the best of relationship with our families. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst the best of etiquettes. جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة
That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there are certain things I can't do. I mean, certain things that I so I grew up in Northern Virginia. I moved to SoCal about a year ago. Oh yeah? Where in Houston? Oh, I used to live in Clear Lake for 2 years. Yeah, I was the youth there. You're no, because his sister-in-law also my sister.
Inshallah, come on.